As the passing game came to dominate modern football, defensive coordinators had to find ways to fight back. With crashing into QBs curbed, confusion became king. Top NFL signal callers have become far too good to be facing static zone, having spent their entire life in wide-open passing systems, where punishing gaps is the aim of the game. So, defensive coordinators have had to step their game up again, fusing zone and man to pattern match their way out of problems, finding unique ways to split the field and their coverage, leading to puzzled looks on QB's faces and many a stalled drive. First off, let's get this straight. If you can go out there and play variations of one man and two man, go do that as a defensive coordinator. This is the best system if you have the talent. But for when you can't, and that's often in football, zone exists. But spot dropping, that's teaching defensive players to bail or slide to cover a specific area of the field, is easily carved open by calm QBs. Modern problems require modern solutions, and that has come in two forms inherently intertwined: pattern matching and split field coverages. To pattern match as a defense means to divide your coverage up based on the passing pattern the offenses are trying to execute. Instead of a defender being tasked with covering a specific area or offensive threat, defenders will distribute the weapons based on route depth and direction. A split field coverage is exactly what it sounds like, dividing the field into two and running different coverages either side, often based on the offensive split. That's players either side of the center, the most common of which you see today being the Fangio 6. We'll come back to talk about that later, but let's first start with the king of pattern matching, quarters coverage. Often confused as cover 4, quarters uses pattern match principles across the back 7 to out-leverage the offense, creating an ever-shifting man-match coverage to keep coordinators and QBs guessing. Starting from the ever-trendy too-high safety look, quarters is predominantly played from a nickel-based look. That's 5 DBs on the field, trying to match the speed of the offense. With the corners generally playing in off coverage too, the aim is to always have 4 defenders to out-leverage an all-go attack from the offense. Now, notice I said leverage there, not deep protection, because quarters will give opportunities for one-on-one shots down the field, but it aims to always do this with the defender winning the leverage and vision battle. Splitting the field in two, the best way to think of the quarter setup is as a box and a triangle. In high school or college, you would usually run the box to the field side and triangle to the boundary, but with NFL hashes being much narrower and having a lesser effect on spacing, NFL teams would typically call the box to the strength of the formation. Let's start with that box, and as we said, each player has a specific set of rules that determines who they're taking. Starting with the corner, he has all of number 1 everywhere unless he goes underneath, in which case he leaves him for the inside help and gains depth to his zone. This is often called mod, which can stand for man outside and deep, or man on demand in the Saban system. Basically, he's your man to lock onto if he comes to you. If he stays underneath, gain depth and watch the QB. The most important position to read in this defense is the number 2 receiver, so the player tasked with covering him, extremely crucial. Often referred to as the apex player or the overhang in this scheme, the nickel position is going to base his coverage on the number 2. If he goes outside, he'll match him to the flat. If he goes deep, he'll carry him to the safety. If he goes in, he'll deliver him to the Mike linebacker. The safety is also reading 2 and reacting to his route. If 2 goes vertical, he's now in charge of him, making sure to maintain leverage and deter that deep ball. If 2 goes out, the safety can guess what's coming from the offense here. Number 1 is likely coming deep, and he needs to have the angle and depth to protect the post, while being able to break to the fade or downhill to a stop or dig route. If the number 2 receiver goes in, well, this is usually an indication that there's a crosser coming from the other side of the formation. So, the safety will shade middle, trying to jump or bait a throw from the QB who isn't expecting the safety to see this. The Mike in the box needs to be athletic and quick because he's got the responsibility for the number 3 threat, usually in the form of a running back. Now, if this number 3 goes vertical, he best be fast because it's his job to carry him. If 3 goes out, the Mike will give a push call, sliding the apex defender over to deal with the threat of 3 in the flat and assume his responsibilities on the number 2. If the 3 goes back across, the Mike will deliver him to the next defender and look to pick up work coming the other way. So those are the box rules defined. Now onto the triangle, where the rules are slightly different. Because the will backer is part of the run fit, we can't just have him follow the 2 outside of the flat, or you're going to give up huge runs all day long. Instead, the corner here will trap down on the number 2 if he goes out. If the 2 goes inside or vertical, then a corner will play Meg on the number 1. That's man everywhere he goes. Stick to him like glue now. He's your man. Moving back to the will, and he's also reading the number 2. If he goes vertical, he'll carry him to the safety. If he goes inside, he'll deliver him to the mic and look for crossers. If he heads to the flat, he knows the corner has him, so he can look for immediate underthreats from 1. Then, gain depth and read the QB with the aims of robbing the ball on any routes crossing back across the formation. The safety is of course reading number 2, taking him vertically if he attacks deep. But if he goes out, the corner will trap down, leaving nobody to cover the number 1, which now makes this the safety's responsibility. So if 2 goes out, the safety megs 1. If 2 goes in, it's much like the other safety's responsibility. Make sure you have control of that post and be ready to jump or steal any crossing route coming from the far side. Speaking of steals, now we've been talking a lot about carrying vertical routes throughout. But what actually defines a vertical in this system? Well, it can be team dependent, with some setting a specific distance, but usually the best definition is to use that apex or overhang player as a guide. If the route goes over the overhang, it's vertical. This means slants that are 3-step slants are the box corner's responsibility. As if you extended this route, it will go over him. So that slant idea you were thinking of should be guarded too. However, NFL speed actually shortens the carry distance of the number 2 vertically to the safety, precisely because they're so fast. With elite acceleration, it takes speedy slots no time to reach the distance, meaning the apex can hang slightly lower providing they have great instincts, allowing them to keep vision on the QB for longer. Part of the advantage of this scheme is just how much you can mold it to your players and what you're seeing. To keen play designers watching, the flat to the box side might seem like a particularly easier area to target, but quarters can easily add a tag to counter specific threats. With a cut call between the corner and nickel, they can flip the coverage to take away this flat attack, with the corner taking the first immediate out and the nickel taking the 2, essentially creating pattern match cover 2. This is also often called 2-read or palms when called pre-snap. Because the shell can remain the same, quarters can be difficult to get a read on tape, taking time for coordinators and QBs to see it. But no defense is invincible, and coordinators know they can mess with rule-based systems by manipulating the formation and numbers count. So let's look at how these defenses deal with different formations. Trips, that's 3 receivers to one side, is extremely common in the NFL, so quarters has to find a way to match it. And here's a few ways that they do this. First is what's called a poach, and that's what the Jets are going to do here. With the top corner in Sauce Gardner, they can lock him to the solo side with the Meg call, cheat the safety over to take the 3, and play the triangle on the 1 and 2 to the trip side. 2 releases outside so the corner stays flat and the nickel walls at the numbers. The safety gets over the top, and the corner is ready to chase the wheel. The far side safety will cheat over to take the crosser with the mic taking the running back. The coverage is excellent, but I never said it could stop Josh Allen's legs. The next most common adaptation to trips is what's called stubby, made famous by Alabama great Nick Saban. Instead of cheating over a safety, you can create the triangle by calling Meg for the corner on number 1, then treating it like the normal triangle call, just infield slightly. This also allows for more variation on the weak side of the formation. The safety is now free to double the solo receiver in a cone or dog coverage, or can buzz down to the flat to take the running back if this is a tough matchup for the linebacker. Stump is just another variation of stubby, with slightly different play for the corner. Instead of playing Meg, he'll play Mod, meaning if his guy stays shallow, he can make a smash call, telling his nickel to come to the flat to stop it, and he'll gain depth to take the corner route coming in behind him, something difficult for the nickel to get to. You can think of this as almost the inverse of the cut call. Against 5 wide formations, teams are likely to play the triangle to the 2 receiver side, calling either stump or stubby for the strong side. But they can also call pure man on the backside, often with the banjo call to play any rub concepts. And the flexibility of the shell allows for shifts into multiple other coverages too. You can play straight 2-man or cover 1 robber. Cover 2 or straight cover 4 zone are perfectly suited, and the cover 0 blitz can work excellently from this shell. But the NFL's other most trendy defense is also executed from this look, and that's the Fangio Cover 6, another split field principle. Starting from the same look, both safeties will align high with the corners off, indicating deep protection and inviting checkdowns. Splitting the field in two, the defense will play cover 4 to the passing strength of the formation, and cover 2 to the weak side. This creates vertical protection to where the most threats lay, with the safety and corner zoning the quarters, but strong help remains underneath with 2 zones to take anything shallow. If a third receiver to this side does go long, it will be the responsibility of the outside backer to bail him. On the weak side, a flat cover 2 is generally played, but there's all manners of options to add man or bracket the X receiver, much like in quarters. The systems share lots of similar shapes and ideas, and build on much of the same idea of confusion, but cover 6 plays much more zone than quarters, and has different calls and ideas for covering the 3. With how nuanced these coverages can be, not everyone is going to run their system the same. If you're a coach and are thinking, hey, we don't run ours like that, that might be true. And the beauty of the quarters and split field systems is that there's many little rules and intricacies you can tweak and change to adapt to your ball club. And that's often why it's so effective. So that's how the quarter system and split field defenses have come to rule the NFL. But will this last? Well, complexity is here to stay, but the circle of life holds strong in the NFL. And just as quickly as it takes for someone to come up with a system, there's always someone ready to break it.